You may have heard that a new fissure formed in Yellowstone and that its formation was related to an explosion. This is completely true, but this fact is not concerning in my opinion, so you can ignore any alarmism. We actually have footage of the natural explosion which produced this taken from the camera overlooking Biscuit Basin's Black Diamond Pool, which was the site of a far larger explosion on July 23, 2024. Since steam rising from the Black Diamond Pool hot spring is obscuring the view, here's a zoomed-in version of the same clip. What you are looking at is termed a hydrothermal explosion, which under some circumstances can even occur in non-volcanic environments such as some fault-related hot springs. This June 13th hydrothermal explosion and the rising steam associated with it soon formed not just one, but three new 39 to 61 foot-long fissures in an area 80 to 210 feet north of the aforementioned Black Diamond Pool. For a broader idea of where exactly this happened in Yellowstone National Park, here you go. For reference, hydrothermal explosions are not all that uncommon of a geologic phenomena in Yellowstone, and despite what might initially appear as similar in appearance to a phreatic volcanic eruption, hydrothermal explosions are not volcanic eruption related. No magma has newly risen to shallow depths in my opinion, so there's nothing to worry about in regards to the broader Yellowstone volcano, which shouldn't even be capable in my opinion of erupting any time in the next several thousand years at a minimum. Per a direct quote from the U.S. Geological Survey, hydrothermal explosions occur where shallow interconnected reservoirs of fluid with temperatures at or near the boiling point underlie thermal fields. These fluids can rapidly transition to steam if the pressure suddenly drops. Since vapor molecules take up much more space than liquid molecules, the transition to steam results in significant expansion and blows apart surrounding rocks and ejects debris. Hydrothermal explosions can potentially form craters up to several hundred or even several thousand feet wide, although they usually only form craters less than 100 feet wide. They are seemingly impossible to predict, albeit uncommon, and most commonly occur in areas with hot springs where previous hydrothermal explosions have been observed, typically occurring under specific conditions if a caprock of sinter forms above a high-temperature hot spring. Although it is tough to pinpoint which of these three fissures formed from the shown hydrothermal explosion on June 13th, it looks to me as if this 61-foot-long fissure formed with multiple smaller explosions occurring across a short time span in a linear chain that released a plume of steam to at least a height of 40 feet. While these three vents formed on June 13th, only 2 days later a new hot spring popped up in the vicinity involving a 20-foot wide body of water. This new hot spring did not form through a hydrothermal explosion, but rather through rising hot spring water eating away at the above rock and sediments until the top collapsed to reveal the hot water. It has since produced some weak geysering. New geothermal vents appear and disappear all the time at Yellowstone, so this really isn't all that surprising or concerning. But it is scientifically interesting. It isn't a coincidence that so many geothermal explosions, specifically at least 19, have occurred in the Biscuit Basin since July 2024. However, essentially the same thing, that is, an increased rate of hydrothermal explosions, also occurred here between 2006 and 2012. Both that prior instance and the current period of time since 2024 I interpret as having involved an increased heat flow and thus increased flow of energy into the Biscuit Basin. So, what effects does all of this have on the Yellowstone volcano or Yellowstone National Park? Nothing really, except that as long as these hydrothermal explosions continue to intermittently occur, the Biscuit Basin will remain off limits to everyone for safety reasons. Now, you might be wondering how often a hydrothermal explosion of the size seen on June 13, 2026 occurs in Yellowstone. Using this handy chart combined with my estimate that the largest of the newly formed fissures had a surface area of 184.06 square feet, it suggests that an event with a similar magnitude occurs about once every 25.5 months somewhere in the national park. I hope that you found this video interesting. As a final note, I would like to thank my new patron, GeomorphMatt, for supporting my work.